Just last week, we were doing a story on the Penta vaccine, how it's killing up to 10 times the amount of girls compared to boys. And I know the work that we've done to try and stop the DTP vaccine after the great work by Peter Abe has been done, and children are dying at, 2 times the rate, 5 times the rate, 10 times the rate of those that didn't receive the vaccine. You can't help but ask yourself, what is going on here? Do these people care about people and children? What is the real agenda? And as I was running through that in my mind, there was one video that really just popped into my head. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. This is our good friend, Bill Gates, and his TED Talk. Listen to this.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Through the use of modern medicine and vaccines, we could lower population by 10 to 15%. Now, of course, so many people have shared this video, and then there was this huge outcry saying, Bill Gates didn't mean that. He didn't mean, he wanted to, take people out using vaccines and medicine. It was, that wasn't his point. Well, he's had multiple opportunities to really clarify what he means, and we found that there's many videos to pick from, but listen to this one. Let's go ahead and just let him clarify what he actually means.
Melinda and I take the toughest questions we get asked and give our answers. One that's come up for a long time is, as we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible? Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem? What we found out is that as health improves, families choose to have less children. And this effect is very, very dramatic. We find that in every country of the world, this is repeated. The population growth goes down as we improve health. So we've taken that chart that shows the global population growth, and we've actually extended it out all the way to 2100. And we can see that instead of continuing, it actually flattens out. Another way to see that is through this rate of population growth. And you can see that in the 60s, that reached a pretty high number, over 2% per year, and it's now come way, way down. Now, 11 billion people, still a lot, but the good news is that the faster we improve health, the faster family size goes down, and so we can feel great about saving those lives.
It's amazing, right? I mean, talk about, verbal salad or whatever you want to call it. Let's just be clear. It's clear now, I think, and we've given Bill Gates the opportunity, he really want to explain himself, but it's clear that his goal is to reduce population. His goal is to have less of you alive out there on this planet, right? I don't think I'm taking that out of context when I say that. And so, he says, when we look at populations in areas where you could go ahead and assume tend to be darker skinned people, let's say, that population could really use to be reduced. And through the use of vaccines, and he says, when we look at, in first world nations, everywhere we look where there's better, the population goes down when the health improves, like the United States of America, right? I'm guessing he's pointing to us where our health improved, where we went from 12.8% chronic illness in our children in the 1980s till we brought all these great vaccines and drugs, and now we've improved to 54% of our children have chronic illness, autoimmune disease, neurological disorders. Oh, and by the way, our population has gone down too. How many of your friends cannot have children? How many people do you know need to be rich enough to use intervention of IVF or other forms of impregnating themselves because nature is no longer working? You see, that's Bill Gates' dream. He dreams to do that to every nation. And we've seen vaccines that kill when we talked about DTP last week. We've seen vaccines that sterilize being kicked out of, India in vaccination programs, that Bill and Melinda Gates and the Clinton Foundation were there. But, whether or not these seem like conspiracy theories to you or wherever you're at, just remember, as the leading voice, honestly, the first man who screamed, "This is the once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. This is the big one. This is the once-in-a-century virus. We must lock everyone down. We must destroy economies. We must make sure that no one has any freedom until we can get a vaccine that 7.5 billion of you will get." The man screaming that is telling you his number one goal is to make fewer of you. Just keep that in your mind as we move through today's show and start to ask even more questions about whether or not you think better health leads to fewer people. I'm just saying, something you may want to think about.
If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of The High Wire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, and Twitter. We'll see you there.